Look at us now.
Ooh, Jesus.
It's what, 11 a.m.?
Combat.
Oh, there he is.
You fit in seamlessly in this weird MK environment.
Do you want a margarita? We're gonna do it. That's it. On your marks, get set, and go down.
You know, I wonder how many fighters and or luminaries in the fight game, Chuck, are spending today in mourning as a consequence of Andrew Tate and his brother being arrested. Probably a significant amount. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, wow. Welcome,
the over under is 0.5. You know,
Yeah.
so and I'm going under.
Yeah, take that under.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Morning Combat. It is the 20th. My God, the year is flying by. The 20th of July, 2026. My name is Luke Thomas. I am merely one half of your hosting duo. I join you in the capital of Estados Unidos, right here in Washington, D.C., joined by the the Iceman himself. Did the Iceman go to see the Odyssey over the weekend?
No, man, I haven't seen it. I heard it's a 3-hour film, though, right? So,
It's
like,
3 hours?
it's a little bit of a commitment, and I didn't have the time this week, and I do intend to see it. How about you? You want to see that? You like that kind of film, right?
I do, but I don't like for 3 hours,
Yeah,
brother. You gotta be doing something special for that. You
Need
know
an
what I mean?
intermission in there for that, you know?
What is this? Lawrence of Arabia? Every 2 weeks a movie comes out. What are we doing here? This is insane. I do want to see it, but Jesus Christ, dude, 3 hours in the movie theater is a lot. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, and these days you can wait, and like 2 weeks later you can watch it at home anyway. So I may take that route. We'll see, but I would like to see it. Yes.
People are like, "Oh, you got to see it in IMAX." I'm like, it turns out I don't actually. Yeah. All right. Welcome to the show today. We have a lot to get to. So we're just coming off the heels of UFC Oklahoma City. A lot to unpack there. Don't forget about PFL. Johnny Eblen getting a big win to set up one of the bigger grudge matches, frankly, in PFL history. We'll talk about that. Conor McGregor gave us a bit of a health update. We have some other kind of updates related to folks in the fight game, and a whole lot more. So thumbs up on the video if you haven't already. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, you can follow us on all the various socials, which you can see below on the screen. Don't forget, you can become a member of the channel with emojis and badges and more to come. It's a great way to support the channel. And let's see. We also have merch, morningcombat.shop. So for the month of July, we're releasing all t-shirt designs. Pardon me. 20% off for those up until the stroke of midnight, July 31st, or you can get 50% off of all posters. All of these ones are available to you. And it should also be noted, of course, that when we do fan subs or Dead Wrong, you can email the show, Morning Combat. Excuse me. morningcombat@gmail.com. Best fan sub gets a free signed poster at the end of every month. Let's bring in the third member here of the show. He's present. Is he mentally present? That's a very different question. No. It's Long Island Luke. What's up, buddy?
I'm always mentally present. What's that supposed to mean, guys? UFC OKC, it came and went. UF Cock, excuse me, came and went. You know, it was a good card. I got to eat some crow on Tommy McMillan. You know, I'm not going to say he looked good, but damn, that guy's got an output, and he put it on.
Did you pick against him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Against him hard.
I could see why you would do that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a donk, and I just thought he was going to fight like a donk. And, he did eat that big knee at one point. I was like, oh, shit, he's rocked. But, Alberto Montez just, a little too, I don't want to say short, but he was a little, Tommy was just way too long. He couldn't get in range. There was a lot going on there, but I enjoyed the card.
The world's toughest juggalo won over the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, he did. You know what? We'll talk about this later. He actually, I thought, showed a couple of measures of genuine improvement. So, in fairness to him, there was something to be said for that. However, just based on his aesthetic and the way he talks, I'm like,
and not everybody's going to make that handshake deal before the fight and say like, hey, no shooting, no takedowns. Let's just stand and bang.
Right.
So that's not going to work with everyone.
I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I should have gotten to. I think that is just about it. So without further ado, Chuck, let's get this party started. Topic number one here. Where else would we start? The main event of Oklahoma City. Dricus Du Plessis, basically, not quite, but basically runs the table on Kamaru Usman. I mean, not only did he win 50-45 and then 49-46 on two of the judges' scorecards, could have been 50-45 the whole way. Here you can see them. Very funny to me that round 5 was the one that the folks went with. I actually thought, yes, you know what? That one is reasonable. If you're going to give Kamaru a round, that one's probably got the strongest claim to it. Kamaru didn't seem to understand how the scores could be so lopsided, which only tells you how badly he got his shit rocked in that fight. But let's sort of talk about what the actual result means, Chuck. So DDP definitely just beat up Kamaru, and he did it for the vast majority of that fight, although I give Kamaru credit for two things. One, hanging on, and two, a bit of a fifth-round surge that he was able to initiate. Nevertheless, it was too little too late. So in being overmatched, Chuck, is the story that DDP looks much improved and frankly ready for another title run, or that Usman is just washed and this doesn't tell us much?
Yeah, I've seen people kind of split on this one, but I would say that I thought it was like a DDP. I wouldn't say a master class, but it was certainly an evolution to something. And because it was a rebound to his worst fight, one of his worst beatings we've seen, and obviously he loses his title. You never know in what form you're going to see a guy return after something like that. It can be a mental factor going into it. I thought he looked very sharp, and we've always known him to be a cerebral fighter, but to kind of rein it in the way he did. We've seen him in fights like against Tavares and who was the other? Derek Brunson. Remember those earlier fights? Like he would kind of just lose his shit at some point and start running downhill like a toddler, like a drunk toddler, and just winging punches, very awkward momentum swing. Looks like he's off balance through these tapes. We didn't see any of that. This was a guy who was very measured and controlled, and he was able to kind of control the distance. I thought his, that left high kick was landing. He was mixing that up. He was keeping the range. I just thought, like, if anything, it was like the power of restraint that we saw from this DDP. And I was like, you know what? This was the smartest fight he could do. Now, he didn't put Usman away. He might have done that had he fought the other way. If he just kind of like, once he got him rocked, he just kind of went in there. And he rocked Usman, I think, like 6 times. I don't know how many, like, officially, but it felt like 6 times that Usman's knees buckled and it looked like he might be done. If he rushes in there and he gets crazy, something crazy might have happened to him. And I felt like maybe there was an air of caution there, but at the same time, he didn't need to do that. I think he was going for the knock. Like, he had him rocked all those times. He was trying to end that fight, but he was trying to do it in a way that was calculated. And to me, that's kind of what's been missing from his game. So I thought that this was probably the best version I've seen of DDP so far.
I would say that in evaluating this win, well, then let's hold on before we go back to it. I agree with the broad strokes of what you're saying for sure. However, what about the idea of how Kamaru looked? I mean, he survived. Yeah. He hung on. Again, that 5th round surge is very commendable. It looked to me like he was obviously also, just how much bigger DDP looked was like
big time,
quite eye-opening, So what do you make of the state of Kamaru? Like how much of that argument is not, again, we know he's not at his best. How much of that should we factor into this, though?
Well, let's put it this way. He took off his gloves, right? Like, he looked like he took off his gloves. So I just assumed he was retiring after that, because you're sort of like, well, you're 39, you've been a champion, you went up a weight class, you're trying these things. It didn't work. And it made complete sense to me for this to be the case. So when he was, defiant of the scorecards and then said that, wherever the best opportunities are for me, that's where I'm going to go, whether it's 170, 185. I was a little confused. And that's when, in your gut, you're like, you know what, man, I just didn't really feel like he was, he's just not the same guy in there. Now, obviously, he's fighting a much bigger fighter who's no slouch, right? Like, he's going against a guy who was just champion recently. So it's tough. You're going to be negated in certain ways, but to get rocked that many times, man, it's just not a good sign. I never really felt like, until that late in that 5th round, when it was kind of desperation time and you're throwing caution to the wind, I didn't really feel like he had any big momentum surges. I mean, I know people were pointing out the 3rd round being his best, but that was only because it was so one-sided through 1 and 2 to see any competitiveness at him at all in that 3rd round seemed like a visual that we were waiting on, but really it wasn't that close. And so his biggest moment came in the 5th round. I give him those kudos for having that kind of heart and, competitiveness, but this did not look like the Usman. Man, there was a time, Luke, when I was like, I was the one who was kind of trumpeting him in that GSP space where you're like, if he defended like 5 times, and I'm like, when do we start talking about Usman as a guy who could potentially be that, welterweight, kingpin at some point? And obviously The Leon Edwards thing sent him in a different trajectory, and it's not going to get better at this point, man. So I wouldn't mind seeing him hang up. I feel like we have this conversation a lot, but that did not look like an Usman that's going to do anything in the belt run, right? Like, and I'm not sure what's left for him in the sport.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping he would retire after this one, especially because like that fight could have, I mean, could that fight have been stopped early? I suppose it could have, although that's a little bit much. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is if you're going to let a fight go that long where a guy's getting beat up that badly at that stage of their career, you're doing it when you're like, hey, this is a, arguable number one contenders fight. I mean, that's somewhat debatable, obviously, but, it's something approximating that. And if Usman wins, you're like, hey, this, yes, this was a bad loss, or sorry, this is a bad beating, but all's well that ends well because we're doing it in search of a very particular kind of hard to reach opportunity. But now that that's lost, he's just going to go back to welterweight and then lose there again. Like, I just don't understand what the plan is beyond this one. I also understand guys not wanting to retire necessarily on the night that they lose too, but I think for me, it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
Which I say not as a, get the hell out of here, but more of a save what's left of your brain health for a different stage of your life is kind of the way that I would put this. But
does it make it, like, real quick, does it make you a little bit like, okay, kind of underline the absurdity, right, of saying like Usman should cut the line and get that 170-pound title shot? Because remember, this was a point of contention before he decided to leap up and just make the middleweight fight, right? He thought he was going to be fighting for the welterweight title again. And I mean, to me, this underscores why that shouldn't have happened. I mean, to me, this was like what the fear was he's just not in the same form, and he hadn't really fought a lot. And it almost seems like that Joaquin Buckley victory he had last summer was the outlier in his trajectory here.
That and, like the way in which he was pitching the idea that he should get a title shot against Islam. He was like, oh, he's pound for pound number one, and I used to be pound for pound number one. It's like, yes. What is that argument? Like, oh, here's our valedictorian of the PhD program in astrophysics at MIT. I was valedictorian of my 5th grade class. Like, these are not equivalent things at all.
I still hold that in high regard, though, for you, man.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. But anyway, for Usman, I just feel like, when looking at the rest of what is available to you, you need to, like, this is the problem ultimately where we always go. And I really want to turn this conversation back to DDP, but one final point on Usman, if I may, which is that, like, Chuck, this, what these guys will do at this stage of their career, like late 30s, where the end is pretty near, but is not necessarily imminent. What they'll do is they'll look around and say, hey, are there some big wins I could potentially get? And then with that, some big purses, right? Mm-hmm. How much left could I wring the sponge out and get water? And it's a very hard argument to dissuade them from, because in general, like, unless you're like completely mega washed, they usually are able to get at least one, sometimes 2 more wins in scenarios like that. And whatever money comes with it as a consequence, let's say they have a pretty good deal, relatively speaking. So how do you talk someone out of that? Whereas what I would argue is, yes, you could do this, but A, you're probably going to lose a bunch on the way too. And your brain is already very, very vulnerable from, decades of doing this. Now is a good time to preserve what is left, but they cannot think of themselves as 55. They can only think of themselves as 35 or 39 in this particular case. They can't. So how do you dissuade someone who sees themselves as still viable, or at a bare minimum, opportunities still viable, and they're not counting what the next stage of their life is going to require of them? I don't know how you do that. It's very, very, they have to do that on their own. Basically.
Yeah. In fact, I think like in Usman's case, and we've seen this a lot of times, when you're 39, you're actually looking yourself at like you're 34. He's still seeing himself the guy who's knocking out Masvidal, like, and to be fair, like, you can say like, oh, he's tremendous shape, for 39 years old. And, he gives the appearance, right. And, the faculties are very much still there. And this is a guy who, has a podcast and could have a career in talking about the game, analyzing the game, Like he's got those capabilities. I think at some point it should register. And he's got, he has good people around him too. Like I just, his team in Colorado and other coaches that he's had. I think that's a conversation they should be having at some point, because this is a guy he can remain in the fight game in some way. But again, like he was a collegiate wrestler, right? Like when you've competed your whole life, I think the hardest thing has got to be when you're saying like, this is the end. It's got to be the hardest thing to admit. And dude, I feel like we're on a loop when we talk about this, because we have seen so many guys at this juncture of their career hit it. And I can guarantee you Usman will fight again. It's just, I'm not sure, like in terms of the way that we view him, like in terms of this kind of relevant player to the division, I think those days are over. And if he's kind of harboring that, that's the letdown that he's going to have pounded into him. And do we need to see that? You know what I mean?
I definitely don't. Now, returning to the DDP side, I will tell you what I found impressive about this particular performance from him was that he did something that was a very tightrope-esque kind of act, namely, or thread the needle, whatever the appropriate metaphor is. He had to constrain the wildness that doesn't necessarily cost him in fights. The wildness didn't cost him, for example, against Chimaev. That wasn't really the truth. I mean, there was individual instances where it didn't help, but that's not really the story. But it does have to, what it ends up doing, Chuck, is when he's wild like that, he expends a lot of unnecessary energy. He can throw himself off balance. He has to work out of bad positions sometimes, that kind of a thing. He, to me, dialed all of that back, or a huge amount of it anyway. But the thing that really lifted this performance for me is not just that he did that, where he made himself, he offensively muted himself. No, like he did big damage in this fight. He hurt Usman quite a bit. And more to the point, while being restrained, it looked to me like he still fought with the same kind of, let's hustle through this attitude. He still competed with like visible fire in his belly. It was still him, right? Like DDP always has this like SWAT team energy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he still had that while committing to less useful offensive scenarios. That's a very difficult thing to do. And you can make the criticism, Chuck, okay, well, by doing that, DDP didn't get the finish. All right, fair enough. Maybe if he was a little bit more on the gas, he could have gotten that. But for starters, as we indicated, Kamaru's like very, very tough. And more to that point, this kind of like careful, intelligent restraint as targeted for usefulness versus not usefulness, I only think can serve his interests. Like, did we get an answer about whether he could defend the takedown against Chimaev? I don't think we really did. He looked better with the takedown defense. Kamaru went 0 for 7. But Kamaru can't move like Chimaev. So I don't know how much of an answer we really got. But I will say, Chuck, his ability to be like, let's just do less useful things and then really focus on that while still being a go-getter and like trying to lead the charge, I thought was very, very impressive.
Yeah, and a dude with a lesser chin might go down. Like, I mean, I felt like that's where the one impressive thing with Usman, like there's a few times he buckles and you just see him, respond, kind of regather himself and go back at him. So in a strange way, he had him finished a couple of times. He just didn't get the finish. It was just one of those things. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If he had fought and again, like he's conserving kind of energy and he's kind of being more methodical. If he tires himself out, right? Let's say like he just kind of fights the way he normally does, third round, he starts to wear down as he did in this fifth. Maybe you see that fifth round when Usman starts having his offense earlier in that fight, and maybe these things change in a meaningful way where Usman finally kind of turns the tables, because that's one thing he did have in this fight. Usman was like, his cardio was there. It seemed like he still had it in him to come at him fifth round. Like, let's just imagine that, Du Plessis is fighting his normal way. That was the thing he used to do. It was almost like an activation. He would take a big punch and like he would just start coming forward directly into traffic a lot of times, get hit. Or he, like you said, he put himself in a bad position. He didn't do that. So he really conserved himself through the first 4 rounds, and I only felt like he was tiring in the fifth. And if he doesn't fight that way, who knows? Like but that's why you have to factor this in. That was a very smart approach, game plan, and he executed it brilliantly. I think that if you're going to give Usman, his flowers in this, it's just that he was able to survive the scorecards.
Long Island, how impressive was the win by DDP? Not merely visually, but contextually.
I mean, I think it was an impressive win. I'm not gonna like say it wasn't a good win, but I think like we have to look at it like Usman did not look that great out there. He looked a little older. I mean, he is a welterweight coming up to middleweight. Like there's a few factors here where I'm like, was it even a good win? It's solid because it keeps DDP's name in the mix and he's still top 5. And now we're talking, ooh, should he get the next title shot? Should he get the rematch? Whatever. But I don't, I can't take too much away from it other than I think Kamaru's, whatever he wants to do, if he wants to make money, still great. I'm sure they'll put him against a bunch of young, hungry guys that can build a name off of him. But if he is like genuinely trying to get a title back, I don't think it's in the cards at this point. And I think I would hang it up if I'm you. If I'm not trying to make money, I'm hanging it up. So
yeah, I mean, there's always podcasting with Henry Cejudo, such that you would want to do such a thing. Yeah. All right. Well, what about the division now? So you've got Strickland, champion. Imavov probably needs a title shot with Strickland. DDP is back. Chimaev lost, but he's going to need some kind of a rebound. What do you do, Chuck? How do you put the puzzle pieces together here?
And they've all kind of like been fighting each other, So it's a little bit like the welterweight ranks was a few years ago, and Masvidal and all those guys were kind of at the top. If Imavov is getting the title shot, and I guess this is where we keep getting hung up. I'm guessing he's getting the title shot next, but if he gets that, I can't imagine DDP versus Chimaev too. Can you? Like, to me, that means I don't feel like there's an appetite for that. Not after the way he lost, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think that's what they want to see next at a bare minimum, right?
Well, I just can't imagine they'd put that together, especially in a non-title type of situation. I just saw Long Island Luke Pfeiffer. He's probably fifth on that list, right? So basically, maybe that's who like a DDP goes against. But I don't think the DDP is going to fight for a title. I don't know what let's put it this way, Luke. If he goes in there and he smokes Usman in the first couple, 90 seconds, he just puts him away. Would that have been a different story? Would he have punched his ticket to like get, because I don't feel like the appetite's there for the trilogy with Strickland anyway. So I don't know. He was kind of in a no man's land. I wrote about this a little bit in the preview. Like it was a no man's land to go in here because I wasn't sure what his path to like a title was unless circumstantially things fell out from the original plans, or what I presume to be the original plans.
Yeah, I don't know how that works either. It sounds like from like a lot of different people's perspectives that they don't want to award DDP much usefulness from this win. And I recognize that the matchmaking does create for some difficulty because, yes, if you have Strickland Imavov, because that's the number one contender, and by the way, this would be a rematch between them as well.
Right.
What do you do with DDP and Chimaev? Do you just put them back together? But to your point, there's not much appetite for that. And, like what would that even really mean? Like, if DDP is just back to where he was before, like, oh, it's modestly improved takedown defense, but not really. Why did we waste our time with this one? So I don't really know what they're supposed to do with him. Long Island, how would you matchmake the top 4 here? How are you going to position the puzzle pieces?
All right. Well, we have to go off of a few rumors first. Rumor number 1 is that supposedly, possibly, Nasruddin Imavov and Joe Pyfer could be headlining that Paris card in September.
Oh, wow.
So let's just say that's, for the sake of the argument, let's say that's happening. Then I think you do Strickland Chimaev too, because I think there's still an appetite for that. Then that kind of leaves DDP in no man's land where you're taking like a Kyle Bohalio or a Brendan Allen at that point. And I don't think DDP necessarily wants to fight down. Maybe he'd just wait for the winner of Hamzat and Sean and hope that they give him the winner. But that's all in like a magical world. If Imavov gets the next fight, I'm with Chuck. I have zero interest in DDP Chimaev too. Get that away from me. So then you're still fighting down regardless. And that's why I said Joe Pyfer, because if Imavov's locked up, now Joe Pyfer or DDP, that feels like a fun fight. So there's a lot you could do. It just depends on how the rest of the pieces move.
Imavov may never get a shot, like is what we're saying here.
I think the idea that he would have to fight Pyfer at UFC Paris is insulting as hell.
That's crazy. But I could see this. Didn't that sound right? That almost sounded like was something the UFC would pull in 2026.
It's like we're just, listen, instead of just giving this guy a title shot who should have got it like 2 fights ago,
yeah,
fuck it. Let's just keep him on the treadmill and we'll let other players come into this orbit, and then we'll matchmake around that, and kind of just hope that Pyfer does the job of eliminating Imavov. I think Long Island Luke brings up some what are probably great points to the thing you're addressing, Chuck, but I hate it. I hate that idea. I really do. I mean, I still grant that it makes matchmaking difficult, but the idea that anything would happen next for Imavov other than a title shot seems horrible.
That's
as a
true,
precedent
man.
to set.
I mean, especially I know that we've let the meritocracy kind of, it's just abstract at this point. But at the same time, I'm like, this dude has already done all the hurdles that you put in front of him, and it's been kind of sort of, it's been alluded to that you're next. So for them to skip over him would be very strange. And it's not like Chimaev had tenure in the division, where he was a guy who held the title for a long time. He never defended it, right? So it's for him to get the automatic bid. And I get it that he's a guy who is marketable and all that stuff. But dude, it's got to be Nasruddin. If they're not going to do that now, I would. In the UFC, the history has shown that guys like that eventually do fall before they get their title shot. So if I'm Nasruddin, I'm not even taking that fight. But I mean, of course, I know there are other factors, but that would just, like you said, it's an insult if he has to do that.
With that in mind, we have a quote here from Kamaru about why he lost this fight. He writes, talking about DDP, he was big, he was strong, he was rangy, so it was a little tough to get going. I took kind of a thumb punch in the eye early on, and that kind of blurred the vision a bit, but no excuses. I will tell you, it was funny watching people Kamaru is just, he's milking it to get some kind of reprieve in the fight. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's what vets do. Like, here's the thing. The vet playing the refs, oh, ref, my eye is poked and it's full of shit. I'm not saying that's if you're not actually injured, that's not disreputable, but at the same time, crafty guys are gonna do that. It's the job of the referee to stop that shit before it gets started. And on some level, they do that with maybe not the eye poke, or the ball kick, one of the two. There was a couple of fouls in there, and they in general did it. But this is what I mean about Usman. Usman finding ways to hang on any port in the storm in these rounds. All these little steps he takes, Chuck, it's the reason why it went the full distance. So that's not one or the other, but in aggregate, it ends up being quite a bit.
Yeah, it seemed like a little bit of veteran savvy, didn't it? I mean, you could see though, how are we supposed to do that? Because honestly, it's a closed fist. It's a close fist. Now, you can say that he does keep his thumb out or whatever. You could see that the thumb does kind of swipe as his fist goes by, but it's a closed fist. It looked completely incidental. It wasn't like it was something that was done deliberately.
No, not at all. It just,
but it's just veteran
if your
savvy.
hand is closed,
yeah,
and I throw it to hit you, and I don't hit the two knuckles, the front part that I want to hit, but I hit the side or the thumb. I mean, that's just. Well, I don't know what to tell you. That's just part of the fight game. It sucks. I certainly recognize, but it is what it is. Nevertheless, credit to Usman for hanging on. Yeah. But in the end, very, very, very heavily outgunned. And DDP put the
commentary was a little weird in this because I felt like, and maybe it's just because they're close to Kamaru, you know what I'm saying? But they made him sound like he really was a warrior in there. And I mean, he was, but I'm saying you know what I mean? They made it sound a little more like it was a very competitive fight. You know what I'm saying? Than it was. Because that was a confusing part to me, was just the commentary versus the visual.
Yeah.
But
they also called Tommy McMillan a superstar. Yeah, they're desperate to push the world's toughest juggalo. They really are. But I'll say this. The thing that got me with DC's commentary during the main event, and I know some fans don't like his commentary. I'm not really that guy. The thing that I don't like that they do now, Chuck, have you noticed this, is one of them will be like, wow, so-and-so's jab is really cooking tonight. And then the next one will be like, yeah, it is. Have you heard that? How often they go, yeah, he is, or yeah, it is?
Yeah.
It is driving me fucking. Please stop doing that. You don't need to just high five, verbally affirm everything.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. They get fixated at, last week. I mean, there was I forget which fight it was. They were going on about the one guy. I mean, just kind of they're fixated on the one guy, and then boom, he gets knocked out. And this always cracks me up when they're like, all right, this guy looks good, we're gonna fixate on him, and then boom, he gets flatlined. And that's happened quite a bit because they tend to fixate on whatever they originally point out.
The other one too is DC was like, if you notice, like for example, when they were in open stance, not closed, right? But they're in open, so southpaw orthodox. This is a common thing you would see, which is that Kamaru will just reach for that front leg. He'll just reach out for the front leg. And then they were like, this is DC was like, this is the difference between Chimaev. Chimaev will shoot, so he'll have this explosive level change and like shot into people, And then they're like, Kamaru needs to shoot. And I'm like, brother, I don't know if that's happening too much. And he can shoot a little bit, if you'll notice. Like there's times where he can finish off a takedown, he can run it down a little bit. But in general, he has to grab a hold of you first and then finish it. He doesn't have the explosivity in his knees anymore to be able to allow that. I'm like, I agree. If Kamaru could shoot, that would radically up his chances of completing takedowns. But I think that ship sailed a long time ago.
That's exactly, and that's why the drama of the fight was kind of stunted at a very early juncture, because you're sort of like what you just mentioned about his knees. It was pretty evident, and then you're like, okay, once you take that out of the equation, that's not a real threat. Doesn't that like tilt it so far one way? You're like, okay, the drama just kind of bled out of this. That was a part for me anyway, because I felt like it was pretty evident that Usman, what was going to be his path to victory after that first round. It was hard to figure out from that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, but there was other fights that happened on this card, so let's talk about them. Topic number 2, let's talk about the rest of this OKC card in Oklahoma City. Excuse me, I almost said Stillwater. All right, co-main event. What do you want to say? Is it enough to say that Christian Leroy Duncan had just too much firepower for an aging Jared Cannonier? He had him on, getting blasted through all 3 rounds. There were times when Cannonier, Chuck, could grab a hold of him, slow it down at times. But overall, it just looked like CLD, first of all, was massive for this weight class.
Yes.
And that Cannonier was just trying to play catch up basically the whole time.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And there were those displays of athleticism. A couple of times where you just picked up Cannonier and dumped him that was pretty impressive from just like a standing, position. If anything, he was trying to showcase a little bit on a guy that it's very difficult to showcase on. Because Cannonier, if he's having his way, it's probably a fight that people are booing. Like a lot of times this has happened, like where he's kind of posting you on that, on the fence, and he's toiling and he's maybe trying for a takedown, but he's just kind of toiling with you. And the times it reached that, obviously, like you could hear the crowd start to get, restless. But I felt like Duncan, like he was trying some spinning stuff. He was trying some, some fun stuff that might actually have a highlight finish, and I could appreciate that. But dude, when he stayed long, like you're mentioning, he was a sniper. Like when he was at range, he was lighting up Cannonier every shot he wanted. So I felt like it was a good showing. You're right. He just looked massive, though, compared to Cannonier, who's been around a long time. What is he, 42 years old? Mm-hmm. And he stood in there against anybody. To see that kind of size discrepancy was very strange. But I thought it was a good showing in the sense, like, he wanted to put together something that would be a highlight finish. It's just he's facing a guy who's very tough and very savvy.
Looking at these stat lines, just understand something. Cannonier did get a total of 5 takedowns across 8 attempts, which is pretty good. Control time 6 minutes and 12. How much of that was actually like in a really dominant position where you could do much? Not much. The third round, but he got a takedown in every round, and he got 3 of them in the third round. But here's the problem, Chuck. He landed 2 significant strikes in round 1, 10 in round 2, which is better, but also not a lot, and then just 3. Wow. So between 2 rounds, he had a total of as many significant strikes as he did takedowns in the fight. That's just it's just not going to cut it. Like we were just talking about Usman. It's like, oh, I can't shoot, and also I'm down a weight class, and also I'm old. It's like, well, how much do you really want to handicap yourself before you go fight world-class guys? Like, you're just making this insanely difficult. And Cannonier's not doing that. Middleweight is his most appropriate weight class. But again, I guess the thing I'm trying to say is, as he gets older, and then like all these other guys come up with all these youthful advantages, and again, CLD is enormous. He's a huge middleweight. Like, there's just a lot of portions of your game that don't work. How much of this are you willing to give away and then say, oh, I can still win? I don't really know. The thing for me, Chuck, is I hear Cannonier talk about fighter pay all the time.
Yeah.
And he tries to say he's not complaining when he obviously is, and I don't blame him for it. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, he's actually complaining and fuck him. Like, no, like I think his complaints are pretty valid. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think this is what's keeping him in the game.
Yeah,
is just trying to get some more checks out of this before the whole thing comes
well,
up.
I don't know if he ever, because he was never a champion. I don't know. Like, I mean, he's one of those guys. I can remember talking to old veterans who, you know, in this situation, younger than him, but like in the situation where they're in the twilight, and they were having these concerns. They're just like, you know, I had for as many fights as I've had, I haven't amassed a fortune here. You know, yeah, if that's the case, that's a sad statement because this dude has fought everybody, hasn't he?
Yeah,
like I feel like he's fought everybody in that division, and he's fought a lot. So yeah, and he was kind of like to see him at 42 levels, whatever he's calling it, like, but at 42 years old, still doing it, and he was kind of an outlier on this card. Did you notice that on this particular card, like he's 42, and like the main event and the co-main were what they were, like you had guys who were known, but like on the 9 fights preceding it, everything beyond the opener, all the winners were 20 somethings. This was like one of those rare showcase moments for the young talent in the UFC. So maybe it stood out a little more like some of these old performances we're talking, because we saw a lot of youthful energy and like promise and stuff in those earlier fights.
It's amazing if you look at Cannonier's UFC run, which obviously went through 3 different weight classes, but he's got wins over Iwan Kutelaba, David Branch, Jack Hermanson, Anderson Silva, Kelvin Gastelum, Derek Brunson, Sean Strickland, Marvin Vittori, and Gregory Rodriguez, which, by the way, happened last year, you know?
Yep.
It's like, those are some sick-ass wins, man.
I know.
But it never culminates into, like, that really upper end where all the big money is, where all, like, the real acclaim is. It just kind of hovered at a really respectable spot, you know?
He's a very down-to-earth guy. It was going to be hard for him. Even if he made it to a title, like, and he was, like, I'm not sure he would have had that charisma. Like, he's a guy who likes crystals and, you know,
I'm not into rocks as being powerful. You know what I mean?
This weekend I'll be doing the crack.
Yeah, except that kind of rock. I do that kind of rock.
That kind of rock's good.
All right. Speaking of other things to get to here, let's talk about Tommy McMillan, world's toughest juggalo. He gets the job done in basically just overwhelming Alberto Montez. So what would you say here, Chuck, if we're trying to be fair, because I know we're having a bit of a laugh, but if we're being fair to what he did right and did well in this fight, what stood out to you?
Well, he said he was the third Diaz, like, and I felt like did you see those flashes? I mean, there were moments where he's putting it together. What do you have, like 250 strikes, right? Like significant strikes he landed, 252. And
the most all time in a 3-round fight, yes.
The way he was putting his combos together, which don't have a lot behind them, it's more of a you know, three pieces and like coming in with the, you know, with follow-ups and stuff like that. Like the way he was doing that was impressive. I guess the most impressive thing to me was they had this handshake agreement, I guess, like, hey, we're not going to shoot on each other, which is just absurd, honestly, because you're playing into this guy's hands in this particular situation. But he did get hurt. And was it the first round? He got hurt with something. And, you know, I always feel like you see a little bit of I don't know if it's the donk or the dog, but like whatever's in them on that side when they actually react and they become more aggressive. And they mentioned like a flow state that he'd entered in soon after that. He did. He looked like he found his rhythm after he got hurt. That's a weird thing, isn't it? And there are certain fighters who do this.
I thought that the way he fought with how much volume, that like he would do what all donks do who have that style, which is it just falls off a cliff. And if they even make it to the 3rd round, it falls off the cliff thereafter. But actually, he maintained it. I will say that was impressive. Like, if you're going to have a come forward style where you throw a lot of punches, that really only works if you can maintain that for long stretches of a bout. And at least against Alberto Montez, he did that. He had Alberto Montez just trying to find any place to get out of the rain.
It's true.
You know what I mean? He was just trying to find under any branch, under any umbrella, just some place to do it. And to your point, landed a couple of good shots along the way to that effect, but I thought that was actually very impressive. I thought for sure he was going to, like, the volume was going to taper off, and oh, here comes Montez, and that's just not at all how that went. I thought that was impressive.
Yeah.
I also thought some of the body punching was really good.
Yeah,
like if you're going to be a volume puncher, you know, mixing and how you target is going to be critical. He did a lot of that as well. I really appreciated it. I mean, he's still very, very, very hittable. And I feel like if you're going to have an on the gas style, like the way he does, like when you run up against someone good, they're going to crack your shit.
Yeah.
You know, because you're just moving into action without requisite setup. I keep mentioning this point. Like we talked about Gable Steveson, Chuck, at UFC. I almost had UFC 300, but at UFC, what was it, 329?
329, yeah.
Where he's just like, he's come forward and he's moving. And the point I made on this show, I think last week, was that is how you see people fight on the regional scene, and for a very good reason.
Yeah.
It's because it works. It works really. Chuck, you've been to regional MMA,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You go to enough regional MMA, you're going to see that like pressure works in fights generally, but like when you get to the higher levels of UFC, you have to have intelligent pressure. Otherwise it can be used against you. But most people at the regional level do not have any sense about how to combat that kind of pressure. And so they just wilt. They don't really know how to get people off of them. If they can wrestle, they can change the game a little bit, By the way, Tommy can wrestle a little bit too. So we should say that out loud. But like that whole mentality of I'm just going to barrel into you until you fall. This is a mentality that comes from a different level of the game. So I can respect that he was able to match his intensity throughout the course of the bout. And I think that that's no small feat. I actually think that's a pretty big deal. And one of the things that I was most surprised and frankly, pleasantly surprised, I would say by. And I respect that. If you want to be a volume puncher, you got to be a volume puncher till the end. And that's what he was. Respect for that. But that mentality of I'm just going to do this and you will eventually fall, that will be his ruin unless he changes it. You cannot fight that way against the better guys in this organization.
Do you think every gym wishes they had this guy though, like a guy like him, right? Because we've seen these guys come and go. They're always the guys who are going to come in there. They're going to win their fair share, especially early because they're not being paired with, like you said, the upper echelon yet, and they're going to collect bonuses. And if you're tied to the gym, you're collecting 20% on these things. And I think he walked away with the $100,000 bonus, but that's just by, it's almost part of the game plan is to go in there and get a bonus at the end of the night as kind of, that becomes the reason they're in there in a weird situation like that. But it is fun. Like we've talked about these kind of guys who they're on swing bouts and they kind of fill a function, which is just to go in there and put on a show. And that, I don't know. Like we'll see if he adds wrinkles to his game. And like you mentioned, maybe the wrestling does start to show up. Maybe you see at least some depth of what's going on there. But he strikes me as a guy who is going to be in this role for a long while until he's not. But like he'll be at that third fight, right, to set up the other fights for a long time.
And people respond to this kind of a thing. They were trying to be like, this guy is the next big thing, and I'm like,
it's a superstar, Luke.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes on that one just a little bit. But certainly what I would say what he already is a proven TV fighter. That's a term that BC likes to use. Like guys who are, they got some ability, they can get some good wins, but they're just all action all the time. He's perfect for that. And I just think that, you have to kind of take the guy where he wants to, like where they are, so to speak. I'm just going to say for anyone like around him, if you want to maximize his potential, he's got to be more clever with his pressure.
Yeah.
But
doesn't he you know who Richard Ramirez is, the serial killer?
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't he look like that dude? Like it always throws me off when I see this guy. He looks
a little bit. I mean, his lip is messed up. Obviously, I'm going to guess from fighting or something.
Yeah,
so
it's more like the hair different with the eyes. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, this is what it calls to mind. I'm like, Jesus, dude.
That is kind of funny. I hadn't thought. Wow, that's a deep cut. You're like, you know what serial killer you look like, motherfucker?
he'd probably embrace that. Juggalos like that kind of thing.
They do that and Fago. Yeah, the soda.
Fago. I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
All right, so let's talk about this one. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 names, Chuck.
Okay.
All 3 are young, and all 3 had very good wins. Different kinds of wins, to be clear, against different levels of opponents. So I'm not saying they're all the same.
Yeah.
You got Fatima Klein, you have Jose Delgado, and you got Chase Hooper. Which young fighter of the 3 was the most impressive to you, and why?
Fatima Klein.
That's the only answer, motherfucker.
Yes. I mean, dude, what she was doing here, and I mean, so in this type of situation, I'm forgetting who's the opponent? Oh, goddamn it,
Tabitha Ricci.
Tabitha Ricci, who's like to me that great parity fighter. Like she's going to be somebody who's very evenly matched with everybody she faces. Just about every single time, there's offense both ways. She started to showcase on her like those suplexes and stuff like this. This was almost her John Jones, Stephan Bonner moment in my mind, where you're like, she performs the suplex, looks over at the commentators, DC or whatever, and like, makes a face like, check it out. That's when you're having that kind of fun, dude. That tells me that you're now levels above where you're projected. I think it has helped her tremendously. She trains at the Institute, right? But I know one of her main training partners is Aaron Blanchfield, and that's that iron sharpens iron. They're both very young in the game, different weight classes, and I think that getting those reps, has really helped her. But every time we see her, dude, like she looks that much better. And I thought this was sort of kind of like, her magnum opus, I guess, at this point in her career. She's only 26. So like this is for her to bit like, and again, this is somebody who was in the top 10, like somebody like who was up there in that top 10 to showcase that easily and to kind of make it look that good. That was impressive to me.
Bro, Fatima Klein looked fucking awesome in this fight. I was so happy to see this. Stat line, by the way, I mean, if you see the fight, then this will just be, for fun. But stat line, Fatima Klein, again, these are quantitative totals.
Yeah.
66 significant strikes to Tabitha Ricci's 24, right? So basically not quite, but something approximating triple the output. Takedowns, Fatima Klein got 7 of them. She's credited with a sub attempt as well as a reversal, and then 5 minutes of control time over the course of a 15-minute bout. Dude, that's just comprehensive.
Crazy,
you had
dude.
nowhere to go.
And she wasn't budging the other way either. Like her takedown defense was very good. I think the only takedown Ricci got was like late, right? It was kind of like a garbage time takedown. So, I mean, that's just thorough dominance.
I was so impressed. Dude, the women's game needs fighters like this so bad. And I want to say something too. It's not what I mean by that is, are they talented? Yes. Like, and in this case, comprehensively talented, right? And great setups, just understands how to get in, get out, what her game is, what works, what you need to do, just really advanced level of fighting. And then also, Chuck, after they called it a suplex. It's really not exactly a suplex. Yeah. She would use the suplex lift to create elevation, but then just kind of rotate them back down like a mat return. But it doesn't matter. It was dominant and it was cool to look at. And then
you don't see it that often, especially at those weights. I mean,
totally. No, fair enough. I just mean it's not like if this is it. Like here's on. She goes. She more rotates her in a circle. It's not really a suplex, Yeah. But again, it's so dominant, and what ends up happening afterwards, that's pretty great too. We see where she's nodding.
Yes.
She's like, oh yeah, in the zone.
That's what I'm saying.
That is the part where you're like,
moment.
Okay, let's bring this home. This is something we can work with here. But the other names I mentioned on this, they also deserve some praise. First of all, I spoke to Brian Campbell. I want to say something about Brian Campbell. I don't know if you all noticed out there, but Brian Campbell had like a ton of work thrown his way at UFC Oklahoma City. I'm not sure what's happening over at Paramount. It seems like someone there is finally getting their fucking act together and giving Brian the assignments that he deserves. I'm not sure what the holdup was, but whoever is figuring this out, it took you long enough, but good job, I suppose. Putting that aside, he told me, I spoke to BC Friday night, and he told me Jose Delgado came up to him, and it turns out, ready for this one, Long Island? Huge MK donk, Jose Delgado.
What?
How about that?
Let's fucking go. Love Jose. Dude, he had a great performance. He was also an underdog by the time the lines closed on this, and I was like, Delgado by decision. The man pulled it off. Dropped Bashy, almost finished him in the first two. He looked damn good.
Bashy, to that point, Chuck, he's a super strong kid. He fights with a ton of fire, but he is clearly not as well-rounded as he needs to be. Delgado,
he had a big moment early. Remember that bat? Like he knocked down Delgado early. I mean, that's what made it impressive both ways there.
For sure. And what I mean to say is I think that Delgado isn't quite the athlete that Bashy is, but look at the technical acumen.
Oh, yeah.
And what he's able to do. Very impressive showing by Jose Delgado in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, take another win. And again, this is this card showcased some young talents, and I felt like most of the attention was on Bashy in this fight. So like this is a big moment for Delgado. Like it was a big shining moment to kind of show people who haven't been paying attention, right? Like kind of what's in his tool bag, because I thought he displayed, quite a bit in there in the amount of time that he was in there. Like he was able to kind of show you that he can be technical, but that he's carrying some power too. But yeah, that was fun. I mean, and like again, what is he, like 26 or 28? Like he's again another young guy in the game,
Yeah. And then takes us to Chase Hooper. So look, what do you want to say about this one? Phenomenal jiu-jitsu, which we always knew he had. A nice win, I suppose. Mitch Ramirez just not really up at this level. Chase Hooper apparently telling the media afterwards that had he lost this, he would have gone back to a regular job.
Wow.
Chuck, I'm glad he got the win, and he certainly got it dominantly. There's really no question. But this felt like the UFC giving him a bit of a tune-up to lift his spirits a bit.
Yes, and when you mention like which young fighter you most has the most promise in this, you want to say a guy like Chase Hooper because he's been in this role for a while. The dude's had 14 UFC fights. He's 26 years old.
That's crazy.
Isn't that? It's nuts. Like he, in a weird way, he's kind of like in the Max Holloway or one of those guys who they were fighting so young, they put together so many fights, or Charles Oliveira. You don't want to see him walk away if he's just putting it together. Like you always talk about, to get experience through UFC fights is not the way to go about it. But some of these guys, that's kind of what they were thrust into. And he's had his moments. You remember when he kind of beat the oldies circuit, which was like Jim Miller and what was it, Clay Guida? He beat a couple of big names, and at that point in time, you're sort of like, okay, he's this is kind of the baton pass from the old to the new, and we're gonna say. And then he loses some fights, and you just kind of put Chase Hooper back into a on the shelf and be like, I don't know if he really has it. When you see him do this, and again, I know that this isn't like the top competitor he's going against in there, but like how easy he made that look and just how deliberate, like you realize it's a very Joe Lozon type thing. Remember, Joe would sometimes chew guys like this up too. It was very, very much like that, where you're like, dude, you belong in the UFC. It just sucks that you've had to take your bumps in the UFC to get to where you are, right?
Fair enough. Long Island, who else on this card stood out to you as being noteworthy?
I mean, Fatima Klein, definitely the MVP of the card, in my opinion, but we already went
She didn't
over
even
that.
get a bonus.
I mean, she didn't get a finish, so
True.
I kind of get that. But someone who did get a finish, Felipe Franco, finished off Levi Rodriguez, who was undefeated coming into this, pretty much dominated him here. You can see with the ground and pound finish. RJ Harris did not get a bonus despite lifting Guzzi Hines off of his feet here with this uppercut coming right there. Boom. Knocks him down there. He also had a very emotional post-fight speech that I missed in real time about how he just had a kid, and it was obviously his UFC debut, and Cormier kind of let him absorb the moment. It was cool. And then curtain jerker, man, this girl Anna Melissano or whatever, coming off tough. A lot of people were hyping her up, but Deani Barboza was like, I'm a minus 650 favorite for a reason. I'm gonna sub this chick in round one. And, that's about it, man. The card as a whole, I felt like main card was fun, don't get me wrong, but we were about 6 fights in, and I was like, this card ain't that great so far, So it got better as it went, but overall, not the best.
I'll say this: Damian Anderson, who is one of these like very, very high level, legit black belts, he dropped the decision to Ezra Elliott, who, by the way, is also very good at jiu-jitsu and wrestling. But the real takeaway for me from that one is I didn't watch it live, and then I went back and I had to go see it. Was Anderson just doesn't belong in at 145. They both took this fight on short notice, but Anderson's a 35er, not a 45er, so wasn't my favorite showing to begin with, but certainly not the end of the world. And I hope to see him back at a more appropriate matchmaking in that regard. Chuck, did you watch any of the World Cup final?
Very little of it, but I had a lot of buddies there. Like I had buddies who actually sprung for whatever amount of money they were charging to do it. Let me ask you this, because the third place game, which I kind of poo-pooed on the crack, ended up being a wild day. What's the equivalent fight? I wanted to ask you, like, what would be a fight equivalent to that third place game? Because you were the one pointing out, like, dude, I guess England didn't show up, right? Or which way was it? Who had the big lead? It was
England had a 4-0 lead going into the half.
So France didn't show up, right? Like France didn't show up, and then all of a sudden you look again and this is like a game, and then it's 6-4. Like I didn't get a chance to watch. I get like catching it in little snatches here, but what would be the fight equivalent to that game?
Since it's with third place and it's non-title, something approximating Mark Hunt, Bigfoot Silva 1.
Okay.
Where they just kind of, I mean, that's even that. No. You know what? Dan Henderson versus Shogun.
Okay. UFC
where Dan comes out to a huge lead and then Shogun battles back, but Dan Henderson hangs on to win, something like that.
I like that. All right.
10 fucking goals in that third place game.
Crazy,
10,
dude.
10. Although I will say, like, the true beauty of football is people don't like the fact that it's low scoring, and I suppose that I don't either. But the fact that Spain surrendered one fucking goal the entire tournament.
That's insane, man.
This is why people are like, dude, the USA's going to go far this year. Oh, are they? Are they? Is that what's going to happen? Like they're not going to beat teams like this back to back. Oh, you're going to beat England and Spain in back to back games. No, the fuck you're not. Like no, the fuck you're not. You've got a bunch of rich kids from Bethesda, Maryland, who think they're good, and they're not. And look at the guys who are actually good. Look at the systems that produce them. It's just a completely different ball game.
Who was the team that beat them though in the 2024 friendlies? Who wasn't there a team that beat Spain? What was that?
Yes, Colombia.
Oh, that's right. Colombia.
Wave on.
Yes.
It was a friendly. It was a friendly.
It was.
But I point this out. It's a totally friendly. So what's the value of it? And it's a moderate at best. However, I'll say this just to think about it. Like that's the last time Spain lost. Spain hasn't lost in over 2 fucking years, dude.
Damn.
That was March of 2024. So it's been over 2. That is like, oh, USA is going to go far this year. No, they're not. No, they're not. All right. But I'm just trying to point out it's been a really exciting summer. The World Cup was here, and we still have plenty more to go. We have UFC 330 next month. And here's the deal, folks. This summer, whatever you're watching, whether it's the World Cup, whether it's baseball, golf, soccer, racing, DraftKings has you covered for every single moment of it. The DraftKings app is now available in all 50 states. Yes, all 50, bringing the game straight to your fingertips wherever you are. New DraftKings customers, sign up with the code Kombat. You can see it there on your screen, Kombat with a K. Spend $5 to get 150 in rewards within 14 days. This includes all markets. That's code Kombat, Kombat, in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Bet with DK Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-MY-RESET. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, bet tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus, void in Canada. Event contract trading with DraftKings predictions involves risk of loss. Availability varies. Predictions offer void in New York. Bet to get bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Trade to get predictions dollars that expire in 1 year. $50 in rewards issued every 7 days via click to claim for 14 days. One non-withdrawable reward redeemable. Terms at dkng.co/offer. Yes, terms at dkng.co/offer. Limited time offer. Did I botch something on that one? What happened there? Sorry. I just want to say the DraftKings Sports app is now available in all 50 states, bringing the game straight to your fingertips wherever you go. Okay, there you go. The DraftKings Sports app. That's the one we're looking for. All right, very good.
Cool.
Let's go to topic number 3, if we can here, Chuck. Let's talk about PFL because they had a card this weekend. PFL's return to Texas. Former middleweight champion Johnny Eblen defeated Impa Kasanganay. This was a rematch from their 2024 PFL versus Bellator card. This time, however, the bout wasn't nearly as close. Eblen stops him in the third, beat him up bad in this one. What, if anything, does this say about his development heading into the Costello-Van Steenis rematch, Chuck?
Well, it tells me, Luke, that he does not like losing because he's been like pulled back on a bowstring and let go since that loss to Van Steenis. We were like, okay, Brian Battle, they're throwing a guy, he's a veteran, but this is probably a bad matchup for him. And the way he went through Brian Battle, we were like, okay, like you almost point to Brian Battle being like overwhelmed. I know that we talked a lot about this, but like being the donk and all that stuff. This was the one that you then circle and say, like, okay, well, how's he going to look in a situation where it's more makeshift? It's for an interim title, like he was supposed to be facing Van Steenis. And to see him kind of handle a guy like that he had trouble with the first time, he didn't, it wasn't nearly as easy as this. To see that, to see him go in there and that left hook and just kind of, being able to strike with him the way that he was and take that fight just about everywhere it went. He did absorb a couple of punches in that, like a couple of good shots, but like for the most part, he dictated terms for as long as that fight lasted. To me, it just says that that loss probably awakened something in him, and that you often see like the George St. Pierre thing, right? Like where it just is like you beat all complacency out of you, and now you're showing up to every fight, which then sets up that Van Steenis rematch to be a big deal for PFL.
I think you're nailed exactly what the real takeaway here is. After that loss, again, some of it is matchmaking dependent, and this fight should have been Costello-Van Steenis. It should have been the rematch,
right?
Is the issue. But part of the issue with Eblen before was not that he wasn't a good athlete or he couldn't wrestle or get good wins. He could do all of them, but you weren't sure about, the other parts of his game, or was it all coming together? And to be clear, he's still wrestling dominant in every way. But dude, like, I feel like he's turned a bit of a corner. Like he's got a bit of a Count of Monte Cristo vibe. Like he's in there like on a revenge tour. And it's added a level of brutality to his game that I feel like was maybe missing before. Whereas before, again, is he going to use control and control positions? Yes. That part didn't change. But he seems a little less reliant on them than he did previously. And now it seems like he's much more ready to throw hands or find parts of ground and pound or use better ground and pound weapons like elbows or even standing elbows too, for that matter. To just kind of light people up. Like he's just hammering them more. He's more of a, if you're going to be in here with me and you're going to last around, you're going to get lumped up in the process versus I'm going to do what it takes to win on control positions.
Right.
Like I feel like there's been a total switch in that regard. And I'll say this, like this is the best grudge match I think I've ever seen PFL put together.
Yeah.
I don't know how big it's going to be. I'm going to flip it to you here in just a second. I don't know how big it's going to be. And I don't know why we're looking at the wrong side of this face-off, because it should be the other side, or this guy should get the fuck out of the way. Either way. But the PFL needs anything that resembles a hook, anything that that's got, for what are the kids saying these days? Motion. It just has a little bit of energy and drive to it. And this heated rematch between them, it feels like the best thing going. But I guess my question for you is, Chuck, how big could it be?
I think it's let me ask you this too. Like, is this the biggest fight in PFL? Because they had obviously Ngannou versus Ferreira, and they had, but to me it would almost be like the more specialized fight between like Paul Hughes, right? Like the Paul Hughes Usman Nurmagomedov, that sort of thing, right? Like the fight that has a broader anticipation but really, really hooks a fight fan to pay attention. To me, that's what it's got. It has theatric elements. You can't, like, in Johnny Eblen, like we're saying, he maybe had some hunger or some kind of spite or resentment or something kind of brought into him that he needed in this process, because not only did Van Steenis, beat him in this cinematic way that I hope they do a good job of kind of marketing just how cinematic that whole thing was in South Africa when they first fought. But Van Steenis then gets a homecoming in Spain where they have a full event. He's able to win that fight. And I get the vibes of the GSP. I mentioned this with the Matt Serra kind of masquerading with the title while GSP's stewing and waiting to get it back. That's kind of where we're at. I just feel like it has all those elements to be like a fun buildup to a fight, which obviously we know that most big fights play out in prospect. People want to feel the bad blood between them. It's set up to do that. These guys now both have titles, right? Like they've had the rematch. It has all of the elements that you need. And it honestly, I think Van Steenis is probably at the best of his career. So to me, it sets up a really interesting fight. And so do you agree? I feel like it's like one of the biggest that they've had. I don't know if I'd place any of those bigger in the PFL's history than this one.
I'm trying to think this through. So
yeah,
I don't all-time history. I'm not so sure. Present moment. I'm not if they match made it right, is there a fight available for Dakota Ditcheva that could be bigger?
True.
Maybe.
She's definitely a star that they have on roster right now. Yes.
I'll say this, as for me, as much as I want to see Eblen versus Van Steenis too, and I do, I would say Ditcheva versus Liz Carmouche is actually a little more interesting to me.
Okay.
Because Liz just out here just still doing great. And Ditcheva should
Cannonier's
be able
age.
Her, Say again?
I said she's Cannonier's age. Like she's still out there. Liz Carmouche, like she's old, right? Like 40 or something, like 42, or I don't know.
Yeah, 41 or 42.
Yeah.
She's so in that sense, like if it's not the biggest, Chuck, at least on the present roster, it's certainly up there. Now, I will say, if you heard the post-fight comments, Johnny Eblen drops the N-bomb. Neither of them are African American, so they're just doing it in this like teenage boy, I listen to rap music kind of way.
Oh my god!
But I'm just gonna say, guys, like, can we just not do that? It's not cool. It's not funny. It's not interesting. And I'm going to say this one more time. It's not about policing speech per se. It's that speech is downstream from culture. So it's not a question of like what we're trying to tamp down on words. It's like what kind of ideas that make this whole thing work are we trying to power? The speech will happen as a result of that. Can we just not like if we're 13 and mom's not looking, it's to be expected on some level, but we're all grown men here. Let's avoid that if we can.
Why do these guys do this? They have like a big moment and then they gotta like obscure it with something like that.
It's like guys, it's like so we started out the show. It's like every time the Tate brothers get arrested, I'm always like, what's up with those fighters who told us he was top G? Like what went through your mind when you went to a guy who was accused of absolutely heinous crimes across a multitude of jurisdictions, and now to the point he's being extradited internationally for accusations of rape and even child sexual abuse material? Like, who thought that was a good idea? And you can see him. You can find all the old photos. Oh, this guy's top G. I don't think you're very bright.
Remember who the first guy to like welcome him to Miami when they arrived? It was Big Dana. It was
Dana White. Dana White. And by the way, everyone gets that wrong too. Everyone gets that wrong. What they say is, they say, "Oh, he welcomed him to a UFC event." No. Now, of course, the Tate brothers have been seen at UFC events. That is true. But that warm greeting that Dana White gave him was at a power slap event.
Right.
That's actually it may have been the same weekend, which is why people got it confused.
Right.
But he was like, "Yeah, welcome to the States, boys," and I'm like, "Okay, all right." I mean, that's very poor judgment on your part. But okay, getting back to the PFL. I don't know when they're going to make this Van Steenis rematch.
Yeah.
But this one is appointment viewing for me. Johnny Eblen, I think reborn is not the right word, Chuck. But
this looks like pro wrestling, doesn't it? It's like crazy.
Yeah, it does. It's not as bad as when they had Tito and Rampage in Bjorn Rebney era Bellator giving each other hammers so they could promote each other during a TNA broadcast on that same. Do you remember this?
That's right. Yes. Oh my God.
They have them go on TNA. So now they're doing pro wrestling on TNA, and they would give them hammers to hit each other. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work.
No.
In any event, a nice win by him. Let's talk about the rest of this card, or at least just small pieces of it, because it's worth mentioning here. This was a bit of an ugly fight ahead of time. Lewis McGrillen, who's won one of the most exciting PFL fights of all time, he was having a lot of words with old Rafael do Nascimento, and the Brazilian ends up putting his ass to sleep in the second round. Long Island, how much of an upset was this?
McGrillen was like minus 350. I think Nascimento was like high 200s plus 280, something like that.
So you can see here that went fucking poorly for him. A fun little one. Julio Arce, Colombia stand up. Tiger Schulman stand up. He defeats, I can never pronounce the Irish names, Cowlin Laughlin.
Yeah.
And then the one that's always kind of fun, Peru's star son, Jesus Pinedo, absolutely fucking bulldozing Joey Ruquette. That one, from the word go, was just on his ass like white on rice. I thought that was fun. Also, there was the modified twister on Biagio Ali Walsh from Gamid Kizriev. They're calling it the Scottish twister. It's the one that Stevie Ray kind of invented. Or if you've got a body triangle and then they turn halfway into the body triangle and then you kind of almost guillotine them from the side of the neck, you can get a modified twister out of it. Dude, they're happening like every week now. Isn't that insane?
It's a copycat league, Luke.
It really is.
It's wild, man.
Anything else I'm missing here, Long Island, from this PFL card?
Not from this card per se, but we did get that PFL announcement.
Yes. So why don't you show the announcement here, and then we'll react to it. Jonathan Martin, PFL CEO, announced today that you can see on the right, AJ McKee, I guess this is going to be on September 10th, is going to take on, I always get this guy's name pronounced wrong, Razabali Shadulayev. Again, I'm sure I'm saying Shadulev. I don't know how to say this fucking guy's name, but suffice to say, understand something. He might be the best fighter, one of the best fighters outside of the UFC in any weight class. He is an absolute hammer. And the reason why this is important is because both the PFL featherweight and Ryzen featherweight belts are going to be on the line. I apologize for getting the name wrong. people hit me to him, I don't know, about 6 months ago, because I had heard about him and I didn't see much. And then I went and did some tape study, and I was like, dude, holy shit, this guy,
the real deal.
You know, this is we were talking about AJ McKee after his last win. He beat the Kazakh kid. I forget his name. Salamat Isbulayev, something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And we were saying, like, what could you do next with him? There's not a whole lot that makes sense. Dude, this is easily his toughest fight in years. I don't know, a long time. And they've got both belts up on the up for grabs. Chuck, we were talking last week.
Yeah.
You know, you've got one grappling hooking up with ADCC, hooking up with Polaris, hooking up with Who's Number One, hooking up with, you know, CJI, all these kind of organizations working together to co-promote. And here you have both Ryzen and PFL putting both belts on the line against a very, very, very tough challenge for AJ McKee. I got to say, I don't know if it's going to work for PFL, Chuck, like this whole new rebrand and everything, but they keep doing things I like. And if they do, I'm going to keep saying it.
Well, it's kind of like a throwback a little bit in time, you know, but we used to see this in like the aughts, you know, where like, you know, Chuck Liddell going over to Pride or something, you know what I mean? Like where you'd see the partition come down. I've always liked this kind of thing. And it's, if you're a UFC centric person and you don't pay attention outside of it, this is kind of what you get sometimes. And I'm still like, it's weird. I don't know if it's just because like I'm still pretty high on AJ. Aren't you? Like I still feel like he like, so maybe this is the moment where you're like, okay, he realizes something of like the like massive potential. Cause I think for the longest time we would have called him, you know, the best fighter outside the UFC. There was a moment in time where I felt like if he was a free agent, he would have been the biggest free agent out there for the UFC. So, and obviously his father and, you know, is kind of, you know, all of that stuff that where he came from. To me, this is like, dude, this might be your defining moment. And that I love when we arrive at places like this. So that should be a fun one. You said it's September. Is this in Japan or where is this at? Did they announce that part of it?
I don't know. I'm going to guess it's in Japan, but where in Japan?
It looks like okay.
I'm not so sure. Shadulayev, by the way, I want to point out something here. He's 19-0. He has defended, so not counting just winning, but defended the Ryzen featherweight belt 3 times. Chuck, 19-0, and all of his wins are by finish. He's a little Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he is in that sense. This is a tough fucking guy. I got
to go look at the tape. I'm going to have to go look at the tape.
Yeah. This guy's worth it. He's one of the guys outside of UFC. A lot of times like, oh, this guy, you got to see him. No. This one is legit worth it in the end. So bit of a fun card for the most part for the PFL, but we'll see how things go for them as we go further. All right. Let's go to topic number 4. Dana White has said, I believe at the post-fight presser for the UFC Oklahoma City card, he revealed that Conor McGregor, or maybe it was like maybe it was one of the boxing things this weekend. I forget exactly, but neither here nor there. The point is as follows. He revealed recently to the media when he was asked about Conor McGregor, what's the problem? And he had said it was, in fact, his ACL. Then McGregor himself takes to social media. And Long Island, can you help me read this, please? It's a little too small for my screen.
Yeah, you got to just give me like 2 seconds for it to pop up on my screen. All right, here we go. McGregor writes, update. It was an ACL and meniscus. It is the same injury as the first Holloway fight, only this time the opposite leg. Quite shocking. I returned to competition within 9 months to fight Diego Brandao back then. With today's regenerative medicine advancements and improved training methods, it is well within my realm to return by next summer. I'm walking without a crutch. I done leg extension machine work the other day to no issue, so I can walk around without aid and activate my quad under resistance. All very positive. I am maximum discipline and have maintained it fully since the bout. I wonder, was I saved from something worse here? I believe so. I have attended the after party as the man who knows then. I believe I was saved. Thank you, God. On we go. No sad stories. Thank you for the support and well wishes, everyone. Your health is your wealth.
I like how the only reason he didn't end up in a drunken stupor, Chuck, by his own admission, is he got injured. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, that means you haven't really conquered any of this. Okay. But my question to you is as follows. Does this make you more or less pessimistic about him returning within a 1-year period?
Well, he made the Dustin Poirier thing where he's out for 5 years, where he busts his leg. He'd made some kind of similar thing then. He was like, I'll be back. in a year. Like I remember distinctly him saying something along those lines, and you're like, I don't think you're going to be back in a year. And obviously it was 5 years. He has the one fight on his contract. So there's a bit of a finality to things here. And he's obviously, like, he turns 39 next summer. You're getting into some, if he's not fighting, by then it starts to get into very strange terrain for him in terms of just being older. If we're not already there. So there's a part of me that's like, he's not wrong about the advancements in medicine, but I think that do you trust his body? I mean, like the thing about it, like, he has been abusive to his body for a long time, and there are just so many factors of it with the age, and also now you're talking about both knees have done this. He's had his leg broken. I just don't know, man. I don't think that, like, I don't think you can bank on that, is all I'm saying, because that's the ACL thing, especially as you're older. It's just I don't think it's as easy to recuperate from. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure that he'll be back by then.
I'm gonna take the over.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the over. I mean, listen. He did bounce back from the initial. Remember the ACL surgery he had against Max Holloway?
Of course,
he bounced back from that wildly fast. But that's a very different Conor McGregor.
Do you remember what he did with that 9 months? He just set the division on fire on social media. This was in the fun times. Like, he just went after everybody. He went after everybody, so that everything felt like a big fight, no matter what they were going to do. Even Diego Brandao.
Yes. At the time, everyone hated that he was getting what appeared to be preferential treatment, or just fan excitement generally, and so he used that as fuel to stand out. God bless him, but I just don't think you can hear something like this, ACL and meniscus, and you're going to come back within a year. No, you're not. No, you're not. You'll be 39, maybe even 40, depending on how things go. Like this is the point we made last week, and I don't really need to, like, belabor it too much, Chuck. But, like, just to reiterate here about what the reality is, it's done. It's done. It's finished.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say, one more time, he won't do a big number on whatever platform he fights on, or get a big check, or beat a name that people care about. That's not the thing. But, like, as a prize fighter of high acclaim and high ability, like, that is done. That is so fucking done. His body is beat to shit. Dude, he's had, let's see, he'll have had double ACL surgery, not including a catastrophic injury to one of the legs where the shin bone was broken in half.
Yeah.
Like, on what fucking planet are you going to come back from that in fucking pickleball, much less MMA?
Yeah, no shit. You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, Kevin Lee had double ACL surgery. And I'm not saying Kevin Lee was ever as good as Conor McGregor, obviously not. But, he was a good athlete. And he was a shell of himself after that.
That's true, man.
Like, what are we even talking about here? What sport would you say, unless you count, like, darts as a sport or something? And I'm not trying to demean darts. I'm just trying to say, like, which one puts like a sporting load on your joints. Unless it's like bowling or some shit.
Right.
Like, I don't know how you can ever recover in any kind of measurable or identifiable way from something like this. Like, you go through enough injuries, Chuck, and shit just doesn't work well anymore.
No, and especially with age, and also, like, he likes to use his legs. Like, part of what made him who he is because he could kick. He had this arsenal of kicks, and, like, what is that going to look like? I can't imagine.
And do you remember his, like, movement era where he hired Ido Portal, who did the touch button mark thing?
Yeah.
But, and a lot of stuff he did looked goofy, but he was trying to just move his body in different ways to feel its own strength, to work on balance, to just understand him, like, the space around him. And it was seen as something a little bit goofy at the time, but also kind of novel as well. And how well he could move his body through that. We are now at a place where he can't do hardly any of that, and may never be able to do hardly any of that ever again. Like, I just don't think people have, I mean, I realize some have, obviously, but I don't know if enough people have really wrapped their head around the idea that, like, the human body has a finite capacity for regeneration and improvement. And we have exhausted a great degree of it by virtue of everything he's done and the injuries that he has suffered. Like, if anyone can come back as Conor, nah, not this version.
Well, I'm past, like, when you say done, I'm done thinking that way. And but the thing is, we talked about, like, for 5 years, you stay in this kind of like holding mode of like, okay, well, maybe if anybody could come back from something, it might be him, right? This is just kind of the narrative because of the way his career had unfolded. But then you get to, fight night at UFC 329, and the very first kick he throws is compromised. And so part of this is going to be like, how many people, like, will the exhaustion, I guess, of Conor's like recovery mode take over? And also just the idea that you said, will it set in like that ship has sailed? Like the Mystic Max stuff is gone. There's no such thing as that. It's just, this is a mortal person who's breaking down, and the end of his career. And will that set in for people? Because I feel like in the lead up to 329, people were a little drunk with the original idea that he could just kind of come back and do some magic in there. I just don't believe any of that exists anymore.
No, I don't believe so either. But I mean, this is why, like folks have said, wouldn't it make sense to have Conor fight in Zuffa Boxing on his last one? And I know Oscar Willis and Brett were doing whatever that bit was they were doing. I don't fully get that.
I don't know.
But like as an idea though, independent of all that, as an idea, like having Conor fight in Zuffa Boxing, this to me makes infinitely more sense than fighting in MMA anymore. Like he can wear shoes, obviously you don't have to like level change. You don't have to worry about. Can you imagine if someone tries to knee bar this fucking guy or heel hook him? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we even talking about?
It's a great point. In the sense too, like, I feel it's inevitable. Maybe it's not inevitable, but because he has equity and bare knuckle in that league, like obviously, like for him to go over there, it only makes sense for him to do one of those at some point. But that would be a better lead into something. Like if that was his last fight, a Zuffa Boxing thing would probably be the way to set something like that up, wouldn't it?
Yes, which I don't think UFC wants to do.
No,
for
they
him,
don't
per se.
Definitely not. Yeah,
but as just a rational way to pursue this, it seems to me like by far the best option. I'm actually a little surprised that it's there's not a little more like fan momentum for it. But dude, this whole thing, like, I'm gonna get right back out there, motherfucker. Like, no. This door is.
But he can't sell that to us again, can he? Like we're the most gullible fans. Then, like the people in the sport, it's got to be the most gullible. If they would go down this road again and buy all this and. I mean, whip ourselves into excitement. I'm not going to do it either, but I'm just saying, like, if people buy that again, I'm just like, shame. Shame on us.
I'll cover his subsequent fights because they will be of note, right?
Of course.
But like buying into like, and I'm not even, again, depending who the matchup is and when we are, like, could he win? Could he lose? We'll assess that at the time. But like treating him like we're going to get back to UFC 205 or anything even bordering on that. Dude, the show is over. The show is fucking over, and now it's on home video. Speaking of Chuck of the Odyssey,
I know
there was Odyssey.
I know
there was Oppenheimer. Whatever, pick your fit. Dark Knight in the theaters, and that was the time to see it. And now it's on streaming. That's Conor McGregor.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it.
And I'm not above watching movies on streaming. I'm just saying it's a different fucking experience.
Yeah, you go into it skeptical like I will the next time. You won't have an ounce of that, like, oh, maybe though, because that did exist this time through, I will admit.
All right, topic number 5. We don't really cover RAF as a event in the more traditional sense, but a couple of things happened at the most recent one, which was RAF 11 in Milwaukee. By the way, how are there only 11 of these and they do one every other day? I don't know how that works. But Chuck, I know you know Ben Askren well. Ben Askren did drop him. I mean, he wrestled after a double lung transplant, which is just beyond insanity. He loses on points, I think 6-3, to former UFC welterweight champion Bilal Muhammad. But the fact that he's even on the mat is kind of incredible. Like, what do you have to say about Ben Askren's return here, how the crowd reacted, and how you understand what the importance of this moment was for him?
So he's interesting, man, because he had that kind of big moment with Masvidal, which it became Masvidal's moment, like when he knees him in the 5 seconds and boom, it's like everything changes. Masvidal becomes a star. Ben Askren becomes an afterthought in MMA, loses against Maia. Like this was kind of the end of his UFC and MMA career. And this is when I talked to him to like help him put together his book. There was this, he was having hip replacement. And so he had some time. He was going to be laid up. He wanted to do this. And you could tell that even though he's having hip replacement, he wished he could still do something more, right? These guys always have this, like, I wish I could still do one more competition. This ends up being Jake Paul in a boxing ring. The guy just had hip replacement surgery and he gets in there and obviously he gets knocked out. So you watch this guy's career go from one weird thing to the next, and he loses this boxing match, and he handled it so well in the end, like in terms of just accepting, his defeat and all that stuff. But then he goes through this ordeal where he dies essentially 4 times. I think that's what he was saying. Like, that's what he told me anyway, like 4 times, where he was dead. And he brings back the fact that he even made the walk to do this, dude. It's like, it blows my mind that he was able to do this. But I understand it from his mentality, because I think he sees himself now as like, an inspiration or some kind of proof of the human spirit, like that you can do things that, because he preaches this stuff to the healthy, right? Like, if you're very healthy, or if you lack drive, this is what he's trying to tap into anyway, is just to show you that things are possible, because he was just a kid from Wisconsin who, went on to be a 2008 Olympian and, a MMA champion and all that stuff. And for him to do this, I think it was more like symbolic for him, like to just say, like, look, you guys saw me at my worst, and I'm going to come back one more time and do this. And there is a film, Roy Karp, the filmmaker for like 30. Yeah, he's been putting together the story, which should be phenomenal, because when he started this, Ben hadn't gone through a lot of the, what's been going on here. So it should be story is just it's crazy. So when I was watching this, I was just thinking about these different phases, and I'm like, isn't it nuts? I mean, this is like, I don't think we've ever seen a guy kind of go through anything near what Ben Askren has, and then to show up in his birthday at an RAF thing where he has he's vested in wrestling, which is the love of his life, and probably why he loses in MMA in the end, because he was just going to go and wrestle. That's what he's going to do. This was the fitting in for him. And I think that for his competitive life, I think he needed it, and it works as like a symbol of the kind of competitor that he's always been.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, except I mean that's just amazing. What I didn't think he'd be ever on a wrestling mat again,
no.
Or even having a similar kind of life at all to the one he had before. And I'm sure that there are meaningful, like gigantic, differences in very challenging ways. But setting an example for his children, setting an example for anybody who was watching, frankly. And the other part too, Chuck, he said something that I thought was kind of moving, which was, I forget where I read it. It was either pre or post match, media he was doing for this particular event. And in it, he says, I made a deal with God that if I was not going to waste what extra years he gave me. I was going to be nice to people. I was going to bury the hatchet with people. I was going to try to do whatever I could. I was going to try and help others. I was going to try and take care of myself. Like, just try and live life. All of us are trying to live purposefully, but if you nearly die and you get granted extra years, they must be, in certain ways, Chuck, some of the most difficult ones of your life, and in many other ways, the sweetest.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because you've even seen the him and Masvidal hanging out and having dinner together and stuff. I mean, this would have never happened.
He went to his baptism.
I know, it's nuts, man. It's a crazy thing, man. But knowing, like, having met his family and all that stuff, and for him to even have like faith, because when I was talking to him about the book, he was basically an atheist who played along with his wife Amy, who was more of a devout religious person, and now you can tell that he is completely of that life. You know what I mean? And I think you nailed it. Like, you get the extra years, and it just feels like bonus, right? And I feel like he's going through it just like that. It's pretty incredible, man. It's like, it's cinematic. I mean, it's like I know they're putting together this documentary, but it's almost like you couldn't write it. He could barely catch his breath when he was coming out of that whole thing, and he was putting out the initial videos last year. He could barely catch his breath to see him compete. And I mean, he looked like he was struggling in there, which you can understand, but to see him do that was pretty wild, man.
It was truly wild. Now, the other interesting part that was happening at this event was that Colby Covington actually defeated Arman Tsarukyan via points at this event. And this ends up being the Armenians' first competition loss, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Since 2022. Colby looked incredible here. Let's play Bilal trying to attack him, and then I want to ask a question about this.
All right.
Okay, bro. But yeah, I want the trilogy, bro. Fucking.
I have said that I don't necessarily love the fact that RAF doesn't have this under control, but here's what I'm going to say. He clearly is doing the thing that he did in UFC when it was working for him. Where remember he was giving out Star Wars and like Spider-Man spoilers and shit. People hated that. Oh, I thought that was kind of funny.
You did like that part.
Yeah, I did like that part. But I'm trying to point out he's now winning, and you could say, "Oh, our Armin's a natural lightweight." So what? Like Colby is getting his hand raised. He beat Chris Weidman recently. I think it's who he beat. And here he is now. Here's my question for you: could RAF do for Colby what Bare Knuckle did for Mike Perry?
Oh man, it's possible because I think that Colby is. He lends himself to that kind of role, doesn't he? Like, and I know, like, he's a part owner of this, and he's already talking like, "Well, I'm an executive." I saw that he was talking to who's your guy, the Australian kid, Submission Radio, Dennis. Yeah, he was talking to him, and he was basically like, I made that executive decision that Bilal's not next. Did you see any of this? And I'm like, this kind of thing is always fun because it almost crosses over, which he did to some effect in the UFC into pro wrestling antics. Abusing your power, but happily abusing your power, that sort of thing. So I think it could have that effect. The only thing is, like, when he left, so when Mike Perry kind of left, I still felt like he had a little bit of a cult of Mike Perry, a little bit. Like there was something there that was like, maybe bare knuckle, that's more of a primal thing. It's kind of matches his, like, that's his, that's his thing is bare knuckle. That would make more sense. This makes more sense because he fits naturally into that singlet, doesn't he? Like, it feels like he's like, this is like, he loves it. He loves wrestling. And the only thing I question is, will people care enough about Colby Covington? I couldn't believe how quiet when he was basically cut from the roster, when he was let go finally, how quiet it was. Like almost nobody was talking about it. And I was like, man, for a guy who created as many waves as he did and fought for the title and just, constantly made himself visible in the sport, it was pretty weird how people didn't care about him in the end. I wait to see that. But ultimately, I feel like he's kind of playing the hits a little bit. And will people pay attention to the sport? That remains to be seen. But I do think that he's got a chance, is what I guess I'm trying to get around to. I think he's got a chance because he's a natural for that kind of role, to kind of stir the shit up and kind of, to bring eyes to it. I think he's a natural that way.
I don't know if it can be as big as what bare knuckle was for Mike, because in part, like, that's a more violent sport. It's a striking sport. And, there were some big name opponents that he got. But I think he can do a lot for Colby, actually. I mean, the reactions he's getting at RAF are the kinds he used to get in UFC. I mean, I totally agree in the sense that when he split Chuck, it was like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to see it, like what kind of, it was like one of those kind of things where like, it was just procedural almost.
Yeah.
And now he's got Bilal trying to attack him at a press conference. And it's like, I haven't seen that in a while. I just haven't seen people try to care about him that way in quite a long while. And then he's out there also winning.
Now, like when it's something like this and you see like two guys, they want to get at each other, but it's going to result, like usually when we see this in boxing or if it's in MMA, they're going to punch each other. They're going to go in there and try to do harm to each other. In wrestling, can you, like, those hostilities, what do they add up to in the end? Is it just that you would, like, in the chaos of like what we saw with, what was the one where they just had the big disruption? Was that the Armon one where they like everybody jumped in there and there was a brawl?
He was wrestling that influencer, yeah.
So like, is this kind of like the appeal is like, well, we don't know, it's kind of Wild West in there. Who knows what might happen? Or is that enough to say like, let's see if they can inflict harm on each other through wrestling? You know what I mean? Like you're a guy watching. Does it rev you up the same way?
It could get close. It's not the same.
Yeah.
I one time had a guy who covered wrestling for a long time who was, MMA curious because, obviously so many wrestlers had matriculated. He one time made a point to me, which was, I thought one of the most astute points I've ever seen, which is that when a wrestling match is over, these two guys can barely shake hands. They still hate each other so much. And yet at the end of like a especially if it's like a tough wrestling match, there's barely any acknowledgement. I mean, they'll shake hands or whatever, but it's like they can barely be asked to do it. And then in MMA, when two guys have a tough fight, at the end they're like hugging and high-fiving. there's like a spiritual cleanse. You just don't get none of that shit in wrestling. They hold grudges in that fucking sport.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you don't get the full experience that you would in MMA. On the other hand, you get this like lingering, burning embers of a rivalry in certain cases that also never go away. I guess my answer would be I don't think it's
passive
quite
aggressiveness.
Yes, it's not quite the same payoff as MMA in
Okay.
the sense that you're asking.
Okay.
And I do think that could limit ultimately what this could all be. But I also feel like you got to just each sport based on how you can do things to the other opponent creates a certain kind of culture around it. And
Right.
the wrestling
that makes
one
full
is
sense to me. Yes.
more muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say this about their broadcast, because I told you before, we talked about RAF, and I'm like, I don't know, like I haven't watched enough wrestling to just kind of know natively like exactly what scores points and all that stuff. But the way that they have been doing it with Chael, and I think it's Juliana, right? Like they're doing a very good job of almost like immersion where they're going to talk about like they break things down for you a little bit, but they mostly like they let you they kind of just let you understand what you're watching by talking about it. And it's like if you're trying to learn a language, you just hear people talking. Pretty soon, you're like, I know what you just said there. Isn't that? I mean, I feel like that they've done a good job of translating for me. Like there are things I start to watch within these RFs. Is like the third or fourth time I've sat and really watched one, and it's funny how quickly that works. You know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, I'm starting to see what's happening here.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point.
You do a good job.
They do a good job, and I just think they need to get the security under control. But other than that, they've got some stuff cooking. All right, that is it for our top fives. It is now a time where you get to ask us questions. It's time for DMs from Donks. All right, from Vaughn Beck-Cal. What is Tommy Guns' ceiling?
Chuck Guns. I don't know. What's Tommy Guns?
The superstar Tommy McMillan. Duh, Chuck. Come
that's
on.
okay. I didn't know we were calling him Tommy Guns. All right.
Yeah, Tommy Guns.
I mean, I feel like we were talking about this a little bit. I feel like he's the guy who is going to put on that kind of fight, and the UFC will always love to have him, right? As long as he's viable in that position, he's going to be that swing bout guy who's going to kind of bring the crowd to life, and he's going to give you that kind of fight. I believe that's it. I don't know if he's a championship caliber guy or if he even aims to be. There are certain guys who just kind of know what they want to do in the sport, and once you take a couple of L's, which I feel like he's going to do, this is kind of what you get typed as at that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got Justin Gaethje vibes with him yet, to be honest. Like, Gaethje was reckless and wild, but
that's a good point,
really good guys,
That is a good point, though. Yeah.
I have to see. I mean, for now, I think that like he can win a lot of bonuses. He could become a popular attraction, but you're really not going to know what his full ceiling is until after he gets viciously KO'd.
So
and then what do you see is left there? That's the real question, Yeah. Like Vanderlei Silva would get viciously KO'd and then come right back out.
That is true.
Like,
the Gaethje one was great though, because there was no way. First of all, there's no way I thought he'd have any self-preservation in the game. Like I didn't think he could do that. And then secondly, to become a champion in the UFC, I mean, these were just not realistic markers for him. And here we are. That's a crazy ass thing to think about.
Totally true. All right, from Taekwondo Dude memes. When was the last time UFC caliber truly meant something? It seems more and more that being on the prelims or even a main card of a UFC event doesn't mean what it used to. This is a question we've been tackling for a long time, Chuck. And it gets harder to the point now where usually I would have an answer. I don't know if I have an answer anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it has. I mean, there's still there's always going to be this, like if you look at UFC as the league, it's always going to have that prestige. Like I made it to the UFC, that becomes the big deal. But what is the caliber of it? Because we've seen, you're not going to see, like if you say NBA caliber, it holds a line, man. It is so difficult to get into the NBA and actually be a meaningful player in the NBA. It is so difficult. Like you see guys that just dominate in college and they can't even play in the NBA. They never even get the chance. You know what I mean? So, but does it carry that? No. It's like it doesn't carry anything like that. And the years have just shown that like some people are going to get looks in the UFC. They're going to get their first real competition in UFC. I mean, that's going to be the way it is. And the reason being, like we talk about, what is there, 44 cards a year? There's so much content they have to put out. There's no way that you can hold that bar, at least not yet. Maybe in the future, it gets that competitive. But right now, there's just not enough good fight, like caliber fighters out there to fill the schedule that way.
Yeah, I can only begin to judge you if you move through the ranks a little bit, and then we're like, okay, now I have a clear sense of or a clearer sense. From Fran _607, do you think the UFC believes? Listen to the question. Do you think the UFC believes that Bisping and DC are good at calling fights together? If so, why would they think that?
Oh man, well, they must believe it, right? Like, because they put those guys are on a lot of. Dude, they're on a lot of the broadcasts.
So UFC production is very, very good, but you got to remember, like, part of what they're doing here is just giving opportunities to fighters, you know, who knows what they would be doing absent these opportunities, you know. And I think it's not the case with everyone in the same kind of way, you know. In other words, like, some people are on the analyst desk, some people call fights, some guys call big fights, you know. So, like, for example, DC is obviously coveted within the existing UFC brass to get a lot of the bigger assignments. He calls fights with Joe Rogan, right, for example. But, like, no, they're not good together. Like, again, like, with this whole bit, like, hey, this guy is really tall. Yeah, he is. Like, just these weird relationships they have in that regard. But more to the point, like, Bisping talks too much. I don't know how else to say it. Like, he just talks way too much. And I know I talk too much, so that's a problem I have as well. But it really messes up the flow of everything, and you know, it doesn't make it easier for the other people to do the job that it requires, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, there was like, and I know that, like, if you've paid attention to commentary in other sports, and I mean, like, you've developed kind of a person's sense of moment, like how they handle it, and the great ones, they kind of get behind it, and then they say just enough. They say just enough to, you know what I mean? Like, and those things become like they become part of a classic call. And I don't feel like the UFC. John Annix had a couple of good moments. They've had good moments, but I'm saying we haven't had many of them. You know what I mean? Like, there's been some epic things, and I feel like they're usually in the middle of a sentence, or like they're just going on, and you know, it's too much. I'd like it to be a little less. Over the course.
I agree. All right, from Matt Shredden. If you could have one fighter as a goalie on your team for the World Cup, who would it be?
Oh, God.
I actually have a great answer for this.
Okay, let's
It might be like too good of an answer, but Roman Dolidze played professional soccer for a few years, and he was a goalie. So that's like
that.
the clear answer. But
a little long.
I'd say John Jones.
All right?
I'd say John Jones.
Like something like that, maybe. Yeah.
Lengthy, athletic, you know, we're talking like his prime, not like the current state of things, but, you know, could cover distance, good eyesight, good defense.
Christian Leroy Duncan, he'd be like, I mean, a big, long, lanky dude who can leap. And I mean, I don't know. That's a great question, though, because there are different kinds of goalies. You know, you watch that, and there are different kinds of guys playing it. Like, Dolidze looks like the kind of guy you might see in the World Cup, doesn't he?
A little bit. Some of the better goalies are a little bit taller than him.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. But yeah, like he could do that job. But for me, it's like someone who's lengthy, good vision, good anticipation, you know, that kind of a thing.
Usri. What about that guy? Big, tall,
Bill Garwe?
Yeah.
Maybe.
He
just kicked the ball like a motherfucker everywhere. All right. From Sticks Plays Time. How big of an upset would it be if Gary finishes Makhachev at UFC 330?
It would feel par for the course for this year.
Yeah, no shit.
I mean, the way it's gone, like, it would feel like, you know, anytime, and I mean, nobody really sees, especially within the fight game, sees anybody as invincible, but the guys that are the closest that we have to that are just falling like flies. So it would almost feel like we're just following the path here if that happened. I still think that would be a major even with all the examples we've had with Ilya and some of the others. Like, I feel like that would be a major upset.
Current DK odds have Islam -345, Gary at +275. In that sense, Chuck, it's not like the biggest upset,
right?
But, you know, for a guy like Gary who's got minimal offensive firepower against the #1 pound for pound guy in the sport, that would be pretty fucking huge, in my opinion.
Yeah. Especially like just how Islam looked in his debut, you know, to win that title. It's just like, it's hard to imagine, but we've been through this a few times recently. I mean, we shouldn't be shocked, but that would still be I don't imagine that happening, you know?
Yeah, agreed. All right, and that is it for our fan subs. You can get those to us on Sundays on Instagram. You can follow us there. Now it's the time for us to look at your artwork. It's time for fan subs.
All right.
You've got mail.
Viewers.
All right, there's like a shit ton of these, so we got to get through them. All I have is one that just says Chuck Video.
Oh, well, that's a video from our own Chuck
Here we
Mindenhall.
go,
Let's
baby.
play
Yeah,
it for
yeah,
a
let's
second.
see it. Check this out, Luke. Check this out. I just had to show you. This was on Saturday in my yard.
Bro, you got bears up in this bitch.
And watch
huh?
this. Watch what he does here. He stops.
You gonna take a dump?
Yeah, he takes a little dump here in the yard. I was waiting for my dogs to find this. Dude, we had these like weird skies from like from the fires, the Canadian fires, and so it was like a weird yellowy cast cloudy day, and like all of a sudden I look out the window and this guy's going across the yard. I was like, damn, man.
You got a big ass yard, Chuck.
Well, you work in MMA, writing about it and stuff. Like, of course, you have,
Who mows your yard? My neighbor.
We got a man. We got a man, and he's very good. He doesn't do it while I'm taping, so I'm lucky.
Yeah, he's got sense. All right, from Jesse says, apparently you weren't latchkey children who grew up watching the limited cartoons available on free-to-air TV. I have included a helpful legend with character bios to help get this fan submission meme across the goal line. Can you read
Here we
this to
go.
me?
Okay, so it says Luke Thomas as Rabbit, obsessive planner and resident expert. Rabbit likes order, facts, and doing things the right way. He's brilliant, practical, and often finds himself trying to keep everyone else on track while wondering why no one else is taking things as seriously as he is. And then it says Brian Campbell as Tigger, a walking ball of energy. Tigger is loud, enthusiastic, unpredictable, and somehow turns every conversation into an adventure. Whether he's making jokes or taking the discussion completely off the rails, everyone has more fun because he's around. Long Island Luke as Winnie the Pooh, easygoing, optimistic, and impossible not to like. Thank you. Pooh doesn't overcomplicate things. He just enjoys the ride and somehow ends up at the center of every adventure anyway. The heart of the group, also clearly stoned and has the munchies. Chuck Mindenhall as the Owl, thoughtful, experienced, and full of stories. Owl has seen it all and always has historical context or a thoughtful perspective to add. The wise veteran who can turn any topic into an interesting conversation. And then it says Jed Meshew as Eeyore, the patron saint of dry sarcasm. Eeyore expects the world, delivers every line with perfect deadpan timing, and somehow becomes even funnier because of it. Equal parts cynicism and comedy. He's the master of making pessimism entertaining. There you go.
Pessimism.
Whatever, bro. A lot of big words in there. It gets hard.
That's pretty good for a high person, though, Luke.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
Thank you.
He reads about as well as my 7-year-old daughter. All right, from Fernando. He's got a tattoo and 6 figurine photos. It says, saw Luke showing off some of his Predator fandom, so I'm here with my order of magnitude greater collection. Please rate my tattoo. I don't love the tattoo, if I can be honest with you. It's not a bad tattoo, but it's a lot. And yeah, I just don't love tattoos like this personally, but to each his own. Doesn't matter what I like. What else we got? So you got the Funko Pops, right?
Yeah.
He's got oh shit. Bro, he's got the Predator Heat Vision. Holy
Luke
fuck.
genuinely getting excited about this.
I know.
Is the best part.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Oh my god, man. This guy's got some legit stuff.
That's very cool.
Fuck you. I'm gonna feed you to this guy. That's the Predator from, I'm not sure, from like Predator 2. I'm not sure what that one's from, but that one's also sick. I cannot see that one very well. I don't know which one that is.
That's the last one.
Okay. That's still pretty cool though. He had some good
cool.
shit.
You like the original Predator? That's your jam though, right?
That's
like
one of the best movies
so good. I love that
ever
one too.
made. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That movie's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, we got a meme from Declan. Watching main card minute, full card watch along. All right. Reading a piece written by Chuck, a little fancier. Watching Luke show off the toys he bought.
Look at that picture. That's hilarious.
You know what? I'm just going to say something. I've been hosting this show under many different circumstances, including difficult ones. I've earned the right to show my fucking toys on this show.
That's right.
Eat my shit. How about that?
I love.
I
these
worked the
little
entire
glimpses.
time on vacation. I didn't miss one. I haven't missed one fucking show this year.
I mean, I would watch an episode of Luke Thomas Cribs. You know, like just you take us around,
No.
show us all that stuff. That'd be cool.
Fuck that.
Chuck, that's in one of the documentaries. Luke literally goes around his office and he looks like a serial killer. The way
Oh my
it's
god, I gotta
edited.
check it out.
Yeah,
I gotta check it out.
All right.
That's why I knew who Richard Ramirez was. He's a big.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. From Ben G, we have a meme. What a midlife crisis looks like. What midlife acceptance looks like. We're two washed old pieces of shit. I'll be doing the crack.
This weekend, I'll be doing the crack.
That's pretty
Dude, like,
accurate.
I don't want when I say this, I don't want people to like get what I say the wrong way. Like you should always work for self-improvement. You should always work for your health. You should always work for, things that matter to you. Like, and that can keep you young and keep you interesting or just happy for long periods of time. But I also think you need to just understand where you are in life. And I'm old enough where like I don't care if people like the shit that I like. You know what I mean? Like I just I'm washed and I know it. And I'm okay with it. Like it doesn't bother me at all. Like I had a chance to be young and it was great. And now it's someone else's turn. And I'm like, I get it,
They can watch those fools trip over their feet. It's better from elevation,
Yes, that's right. I agree. All right, we got a meme from Alex. Is that gone? Oh,
it's like hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil.
Speak no evil. Yeah,
that's
all
good.
the referees.
That's
Not
good.
bad. Not
Look
bad.
at Dana up there.
All right, we got a meme from Jordan. I collect Predator toys. I recently found a thermal vision Dutch. It's so cool. It's not a Predator though. My former co-host is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad it says former there and not current.
God, her look of discontent is like put that back up. Look at her face. Just like, get me the fuck out of here. All right. Is that Jordan? Did we do the Jordan meme already? Yeah, okay. From Jason. I thought the show needed a mascot, he writes. 8-dicked walrus. Hell
Dicks.
yeah.
Dicks everywhere. Dicks.
Dude, look at the
like
top. 8 dicks, 1 legend.
I'd root for the 8-dicked walruses. Like this looks like a good sports
good.
team or something.
That looks good. That's
Hey,
my
look at-
Look at his face. He's coming to commit crimes. You know what I'm saying? I love that one. That's actually a pretty funny one.
Yeah.
All right, from Bruce, we got a meme. He says, given the current state of affairs, I'm glad to see his years of training and tolerance building has finally paid off. Get this man some whippets. And it says, people who eat gas station hot dogs watching all the salad eaters shit themselves.
Yeah.
Brother, this is BC's time to motherfucking shine up in this hoe.
The amount of people that sent this to me, including you, Luke Thomas, to me and BC is ridiculous. I literally got sent this by like 5 different people. It's so funny.
It's so good. All right, this guy usually puts up some winners. We got 2 from John McClain. Let's see what we got.
All right.
Shrek is good in Spanish. I still have to do that. Danny told me that shit. That's amazing.
Oh, man.
All right, the next one. Nobody. Danny Segura on a Friday night. Oh, watching Shrek in Espanol.
Shrek is good in Spanish. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he said it.
No, that's hilarious.
Dude, like people from other countries, like I don't know about like Germany or whatever, but from Spanish speaking ones, there's like a couple of them that they claim is better in the Spanish version than the original.
That's hilarious, man.
I've said this before. The big one that they claim that I just cannot believe. They claim that Homer is better in Spanish from The Simpsons. That's what I said. I'm like, dude, his voice is so iconic. How is that possible? But they claim that. So
wow.
All right, that's there was 2 of them, right? Or is that both from John McClain?
Did we see both?
Yeah, we had both. It was the 2
Oh,
Danny
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
All right, we have it. NYCT has a 4-part comic strip. Joseph A. Bank, Flush. What am I saying in the top right-hand corner?
Give it a sec to pop up on my screen. Sorry. It says, and that's the 3rd one. And then on the bottom is Bert Kreischer telling you, want to hear a joke?
Okay. I'm running away from Bert. What do I say at the bottom?
You say, sorry, everyone, give it a sec. You say, what the hell?
Okay.
Squish.
Squish.
Gives it.
It's Cake Lady?
Definitely Cake Lady. I just got to hear. You wrote,
Like
no. She said, want some cake. You said, what is this? I have to get home. She said, I made the the pants too.
Oh my
and then
god,
you're skirting away.
this is pretty good. It's very
And then I
elaborate.
get home. It's the lawnmower of my neighbor.
Yeah, and he said, I can mow my lawn whenever I want. And you said, oh, for fuck's sake.
It's a bad day right there, Luke.
That's an average day in my life. You understand? Yeah. Dude, I said this. I said it to the boys on. I don't know if I sent it to you, Chuck. I should have. I said it to BC. Someone, because of the virus that's going around, or like the parasite that's going around. Someone made a post on there's like local DC media. I think it's called CityCast. They just like a local outlet that covers like local news.
Yeah.
And they had like places, like best places to have diarrhea in DC. Like if you have diarrhea, what are the best places to go? And I sent proof of this in the comments. You can go check it out. In the comments, I wrote, guys, you're not going to believe this, but the answer is Joseph A. Bank. And I went back to the post like 2 days later, and I looked up, and there were people in the comments being like, tell me your secret. Which one? We gotta know. And I was like, this secret stays with me.
It's going to become a thing. We need a morning combat. Do we have one like that?
I have the proof of Luke's post on this. Hold on. There's the comment right there.
Yeah.
Dude, that's great.
Hell yeah. That's still up too. I didn't delete it. All right. Last but not least, from Spencer. Bong Island. Here's one for you guys with a 500-point prop quiz question attached. I was watching a knockout reel and found the Iceman in the cut. For the guys, what fight is this from? And for super bonus points, what event is it? I'll put the answer below the photo. There's Chuck, and you're next to the late Thomas Gerbasi.
Is that Thomas? I can't even tell.
Is the guy who's got the tattoo on his back the same one that has the Superman logo on his chest?
Jeez.
Possibly.
I forget his name.
I got to look at a photo of him now.
This looks like Mexico City.
Chuck, that is correct. It is Mexico City.
Yeah.
And yes, Luke, it is correct. The fighter does have a Superman tattoo on his chest.
He fought with Saif Saud. I forget his name.
Yeah, I know this too.
I'll let you guys keep guessing.
Jeez, I can't think of it.
Can you think of who headlined the card, Chuck?
Yeah, it was Yair Rodriguez and Stevens.
Yes, the eye poke.
Yeah, because the place blew up when that fight was called. I mean, it was like pandemonium in there. Geez, I don't remember.
So it's Steven Peterson with the spinning back fist.
Okay.
That's the one with the Superman tattoo over was it Martin Bravo, I think the guy's name?
I would have not gotten that one.
Yeah,
that's a deep cut. But that is Steven Peterson's like only finish in the UFC, I think. So it is pretty memorable.
What a
Martin
trip, man.
Bravo, yeah.
It is weird to see yourself cage side at some of these events from the past.
You could see BC all weekend.
I know he was right up there.
Spot.
And both of them, UFC 329 as well. I mean, I don't know if you could see him, but like he was up on the front, like they give him the prime seat up there
from being with Paramount. Yeah. So there you have it. All right, you can always good job with those. You can always send us those morningcombat@gmail.com. And again, the best one all month gets a free signed poster. Chuck, what is the coverage plan for the week?
I'll have some stuff up on Yahoo Uncrowned this week. I'm not sure exactly what's all going to be happening, but I'll definitely be on the crack come Friday. You know that's happening.
This weekend I'll be doing the
crack. Rock.
Yeah.
Smoking that rock.
So there'll be some good stuff up at Uncrowned.
What you got, Long Island?
You know, it's typical fight week, guys. UFC Abu Dhabi this weekend, so I'll have a bet breakdown out. Hopefully getting the much anticipated rematch between Aaron Bronstetter and Jose Youngs on Prop Quiz this weekend. Otherwise, might just be another random matchup. But, Prop Quiz, full card watch along, 9 a.m. start on Saturday. Going to be done by like 3 p.m. Looking forward to it. Also, is that Gene this weekend too? I think so. It's in your area, Luke. It's in D.C.
It's in D.C., yeah.
I think that's this weekend prime time. So PFL and UFC don't overlap for once.
Gene,
and
baby.
they're actually
I'm actually sitting down with Dan Hardy for one of his PFL shows.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
How cool, man.
Yeah, I'm
cool.
pretty excited about that. So that should be a lot of fun. And then, you can catch my stuff on my YouTube channel or Substack or all the places therein. You can see all the socials below. You can follow us there. I already mentioned morningcombat@gmail.com. Let's go now to remember our merch, morningcombat.shop. All of the designs available all until the basically midnight of the 31st. You get them all re-released, 20% off plus 50% off of all posters. And don't forget, become a member with custom badges, emojis, and more. That is it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. For Long Island, for Chuck, for everyone on the show, we appreciate you so much watching. We'll talk to you guys on Friday. And until then, may all of your gains be loyal.